They thought she would stay silent. They thought she would bow her head and accept the humiliation. But after the final slap, the black maid did something no one ever expected. They thought she would stay silent. They thought she would bow her head and accept the humiliation. But after the final slap, the black maid did something no one ever expected. Her name was Evelyn Carter. She had worked in the Harrington mansion for 5 long years. To the outside world, the Harrington family looked like a picture of elegance and success. Their home was vast, their cars gleamed, and their names were spoken with respect in every corner of the city. But behind the mansion doors, Evelyn knew a very different story. Day after day, she carried out her duties quietly. She woke before the sun, polished the marble floors until they shone, cooked meals she could never taste, and endured comments that cut deeper than any blade. Margaret Harrington, the lady of the house, treated Evelyn as though she were invisible, or worse, beneath notice. The children had learned to copy their mother's cruelty. Even Richard Harrington, with his calm smile and expensive suits, turned a blind eye to the insults that rained down on her. Evelyn never argued. She never raised her voice. But that did not mean she was weak. Everything changed on the night of the Harringtons' grand charity gala. The house glittered with chandeliers, filled with the city's richest and most powerful. Evelyn moved silently. Among them, serving drinks, carrying trays, and making sure every detail was perfect. But when a guest's hand slipped and a glass shattered on the floor, the air shifted. Margaret's face twisted in anger. She stepped forward, and before the crowd, she struck Evelyn across the face. The sound of the slap echoed through the hall. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned to Evelyn, expecting her to cry, to apologize, to shrink back into her shadow. But she did none of those things. She raised her head, looked Margaret squarely in the eyes, and in a voice calm and steady, said, "This was your final mistake." The next morning, the city awoke to scandal. Headlines screamed of corruption, fraud, and betrayal. Leaked documents, secret recordings, and damning photographs filled every newspaper and television screen. The Harrington Empire, built over decades, collapsed overnight. The source of the leak was anonymous, but everyone soon guessed the truth. Evelyn had spent years quietly gathering evidence. While dusting shelves, she had slipped files into her apron. While serving dinners, she had recorded whispered conversations. While cleaning the office, she had photographed ledgers filled with illegal transactions. She had waited patiently, biding her time, until she could strike with precision, and the slap had been the spark she needed. The Harringtons were disgraced. Their fortune was frozen. Their so-called friends abandoned them. The mansion, once filled with pride and laughter, stood empty and silent. As for Evelyn, she was gone. Some said she had moved far away. Others whispered she had opened a small cafe where no one knew her past. No one knew for certain. But one thing was clear. She had left behind the chains of servitude and stepped into a life of her own choosing. The world had underestimated her. They had mistaken her silence for weakness. But after the final slap, Evelyn Carter proved that even the quietest person can bring down giants. And from that day on, her name was no longer spoken in mockery. It was spoken in awe.